Yeah, so I'm running for, I'm trying to run for George Santos's seat. I have to be declared eligible. So if any of you guys live in Nassau County, I need you to help me out. Petition for me to be on the ballot. It takes 1,250, 1250 is the magic number. If you live in Nassau, go to my website, NY3 election. That's the third seat in the House, and go fill out that form. If you live in Nassau County, you have to live in Nassau County. A state other than New York, it's not going to work. If you live in New York City, in Manhattan, or the Bronx, or Brooklyn, it will not work. There is a part of Queens that I believe is in the 3rd district. Let's take a look. You have to live within this district. This is it. Nassau County. Oh, it's about 800,000 people live in here. Does that include Suffolk? It looks like it does, right? All right. Well, if you're in the northern part of Suffolk and Nassau County, a little tiny bit of Queens, and a little tiny bit of the Bronx and Westchester, then you got to vote me in. I don't have a campaign manager. I'm not going to have any staff. My goal is to work my job. I'm not going to change my job. And I'm just going to vote when I need to vote. And I'm going to meme when I need to meme, which is all the time. I don't need to be in the House. I don't really even want to be in the House, to be honest. But I kind of need to be in the House. Do you know that we have $17 trillion of debt? $17 trillion. Yes, of course, felons can run. Do you know 5 to 10% of all Americans will become felons? 5 to 10%. That means out of the 500 people in Congress, it could be as much as 25 to 50 criminals that are arrested and indicted. We know the other 475 are criminals too, but they're just not caught yet. Yeah, the trillions and trillions of dollars of debt, we need to stop this before the country goes broke and defaults. There is this expectation that America will never default. That's wrong. Every country, every empire has fallen. And if you're not careful, our empire will fall too. And we're spending money that we don't have because of people like AOC, because of Democrats. And I like a lot of Democrats. Some of them have some pretty good ideas. But one idea that doesn't work is spending $17 trillion and being in debt for $17 trillion and constantly spending more. I'm going to give you guys a real simple analogy. Let's say you have a family member, we'll call them Mark. They're your brother, they're your son, they're your husband, whatever. And you go to Mark and you say, Mark, how's your job? How are you doing? And he says, well, I have a $30,000 salary. And you say, okay, well, that's not bad. What are your expenses? And Mark says, well, that's the problem. I got $40,000 of expenses. And you say, Mark, that doesn't work really well. You're not going to do great if that's your setup. What are you going to do about it? And he says, well, I can't really do much about it. This is kind of the way it is. I said, okay. And so Mark has a deficit every year of 10K. And you said, all right, well, that's not that bad, Mark. Well, how are you going to manage this deficit? And he says, oh, I'm just going to borrow. He said, borrow? Well, how much have you borrowed already? And he says, well, I'm $170,000 in debt. And you say, Mark, how is this possible? What's going to happen if you get into more and more debt? I don't even know who would lend you $170,000 in the first place, but do you have a plan to get out of debt? He said, no, I don't have a plan. I'm just going to keep going. Next year it'll be 180. Next year it'll be 190. Next year it'll be 200,000. And you said, Mark, I don't know if this is wise because you're only making 30,000. There's no opportunity for you to make 40,000 or 50,000 or 60,000, let alone 100,000. Is there? No, there isn't. Maybe I can break even, but I'm probably not going to run a surplus. And if this happened to your family member, you would say they're crazy. You would say, snap out of it. You are out of your mind. This is the state of the country. If you just multiply these numbers by millions or billions, you will get the exact same condition our country is in. We're making $3 trillion I'll do this in numbers and millions, of taxes. This is our tax revenue and things like that. This is our expenditures. And our deficit is $1 trillion a year. These are rough numbers, by the way. These are, you can look up the exact numbers if you want. And the debt is 17 trillion, and it's probably more than that, depending on how you look at it. We need a plan to fix this. The reason that this is the situation, right, is because our politicians don't care. They don't look at office as something that's in any way relevant to the government. They look at office through an ego perspective. They care about them. They don't care about the 17 trillion. I'll figure that out later. But if this was your family, if this was your life, someone would tell you that you're crazy, that you need to go to an insane asylum, that you're going to go broke. And that's what's going to happen in America unless we fix it, unless we put people in charge that don't actually care about the prestige of being a politician, but they care about the country more than that. And, you know, I like a lot of the Republicans, but even Donald Trump, who I admire quite a bit, and I would definitely vote for again, even Donald Trump let this deficit grow and grow and grow. And I fear that people like Donald Trump, they're in it for their ego. People like AOC, they're in it for their ego. I'm not in it for the ego. I couldn't care less. I'm not even going to show up to D.C. I don't have a campaign. I don't have any donors. I'm going to literally vote on stuff from my apartment, from my office, because I don't care. I don't care enough to be a politician. For these guys, this is their full-time job. This is their life. This is not my life. This is going to be something I do an hour a day at most, because I don't need to be surrounded by lobbyists. I don't need to be surrounded by folks that are going to bend my ear to try to, who knows, bribe me or do something like that. I don't want to hear any of that. Show me the bill. Maybe I'll have one person in my staff look at the bill. What does it say? All right, yes or no, that's it. That's the way our government should work. Instead, we have people in the House, they got staffed 20, 30 people. And guess who's paying for that? It's you. For them to sit around and analyze the bill and think about who's going to bribe me to put the stuff I like in the bill. To put the stuff that's going to make me rich in the bill. How do these politicians get so rich? This job, I don't even know what it pays. 100 grand, 150 grand. It's insane. I can't sit by and watch this. The Santos seat is open. And I consider George a friend, but he has been expelled from Congress. I think it's quite frankly outrageous. You know, and I'm not saying that the guy doesn't lie. I'm not saying that the guy hasn't lied. But I read the indictment, and there's really very little in there that was illegal, if anything. And they're just kicking him out of Congress because they don't like him. He doesn't fit in with the other Congress people. And neither does Vivek Ramaswamy, and neither does Donald Trump. And if you don't fit in this club that increases this debt over and over and over again until we go broke, well, they don't want you there because they have their way of doing things. That way of doing things is lobbyists, is lawyers, is leaving Congress to go ahead and join a law firm, join a lobbying firm, and then go back. Then you're appointed at one of these divisions, these agencies, the three letters, you know them all: DOJ, FBI, NSA, Homeland Security, DHS, FDA, you name it. There's about 50 of them because they started to appoint some of these guys and they said, geez, that sounds good. That's a nice job, paying job. They get a lot of power. I need that. Make more of these agencies. Let's make the CFPB. Do you guys even know what that stands for? Let's make ATF. Well, what does ATF do that the FBI doesn't do? Don't worry about that. We need more of these. You got all kinds of agencies you never heard of. So anyway, I need to go and get on this ballot. Yeah, debt is a positive number. You know, don't try to test me on financial statements ever again. You're going to call me congressman pretty soon. You know, we need someone who will stand up to government. You know, I've fought government my whole life. And I'm going to keep fighting government because government's too big, government's too involved in our lives, taxes are too high, that's this number. But expenses are even higher than taxes. It's like we can't spend enough. We can't just spend what we're getting in. No, we got to spend more than that. You don't have to live in the district to run. You should go check out the website. You guys want to go check that out since there's some FUD here? Do I think people will vote for me? Are you crazy? I have the biggest name recognition. Nobody's ever heard of. Do you know who else is running? Do you know right now? No, of course you don't. Stop the nonsense. How do you think Trump won? How do you think Arnold Schwarzenegger won the runoff? I'm smarter than any of these guys. I've accomplished more than any of these guys. Well, these people who want to be in the House, they just want to be there so they can get business deals, so they can write books and get money. Like, it's nuts. I would barely go to D.C. Am I pro-choice? Look, I have a very narrow set of interests. I stay in my lane. You know, I lean towards the right, but what I'm here to do is vote on bills that are about our fiscal responsibility, or right now, what is our fiscal irresponsibility, our insanity. I'm here to shut down regulation. I'm here to shut down the ability for politicians to make millions of dollars off their seats by writing these phony books. You can write a book and put it out for free, you know. No. They want millions of dollars from Simon & Schuster. They want millions of dollars from Amazon. Meanwhile, who's buying those books? Hillary Clinton writes a book every year and rakes in 10 or 20 million every book. Who do you think's buying those books? It's not you and me. It's big companies because they're funneling their money into her pocket for influence. Have you read Obama's new book? Do you really need to read 4 or 5 of his books? He got a big deal. He got a lot of money. It's all bribes. So we're going to take the country back by doing what the Founding Fathers did. The Founding Fathers viewed Congress as a part-time job. They didn't view it as something that would occupy your whole life and then some. They viewed it as, look, vote on policy. That's it. That's all it takes. But government has grown into a leviathan that just grows and grows and grows, and it never stops growing, and that's why our debt has risen. That's why our corruption has risen. And that's why we are seeing weird things happening. Have you noticed this? The president who's running got indicted, not once, but 4 times. When have you ever seen that? Do you notice that politicians are being arrested? That people that maybe didn't commit a crime, but they seem like they're unliked, they've been arrested? It's awfully strange. Do you see that, like, people like Elon Musk, that Biden goes out in the White House and he says he should be investigated because they're political enemies. So let me throw some investigations at them. Something's wrong. The people who we have representing us aren't representing us. They're representing themselves. They care about them. They don't care about you. They care about their spotlight. Have testimony committees? You ever notice how the person who's asking the questions, they don't ever ask a question for the information. They ask a question to bloviate, to peacock in the spotlight. They want a quick 3-second media clip where they look good. They don't want to know the answer. They don't care about the answer. They care about getting voted in again and again. That's all they care about. If we put people in Congress that'll stop the regulatory steal, they want to create a new group in government to regulate AI, right? Here I'm running some NVIDIA GPU. I've got hundreds of these GPUs, and they want to regulate these computers because they think AI might be dangerous. Nobody serious thinks AI might be dangerous. Terminator and Skynet are not coming anytime soon. These machines help us work. They give us jobs. And we should not be limiting them or slowing them down. We should be accelerating them. You know how many great high-paying jobs AI is creating? Do you know how many people can now do their jobs better because of ChatGPT, because of these tools. Somebody who's very uneducated, who hasn't had a great job career, they can now go on GPT and they get a power boost. They can go work and do something that they couldn't do before because GPT can help them. GPT has made me a much better programmer. It's made me work 3 times faster. And it can do that for everyone. Why do we want to slow this down? I wonder why. Well, that would give somebody a job in government to go regulate companies and to go shake them down for money and to go make fake rules that mean nothing and to go make sure companies like Microsoft do really well because they can afford the lobbyists and make sure small companies don't. That's what they want to do. They don't care about AI or AI safety no more than they care about climate change. They just want to grow the EPA. They want to grow the Green New Deal. But meanwhile, we can't afford it. Most of this expenditure, by the way, goes to healthcare. I know how to get healthcare bills down, but they don't want to hear it. Most of healthcare goes to doctors. We can automate doctors. And we could save some of that $4 trillion we're spending, and maybe we could add more healthcare. Maybe we can make a dent in this $17 trillion of debt before we go bankrupt. Do you know how easy it is for a country to go bankrupt? It can happen overnight. Look at the debt crisis or the debt crises around the world. You'll notice that more countries have gone bankrupt than you think. The US dollar, we print it out like a printing press, and it's become worth less and less and less and less. Why is that? I think it's this crazy game that's infected Washington, D.C. that, well, if everybody else is going broke faster than us, then it's okay. Well, I don't buy that. You know, again, go back to the analogy of your brother or your sister or your cousin or your mom or your dad. Would you tell them, you know, you're making $30,000 a year? Go ahead, spend $40,000 a year. Go ahead, just keep piling that debt up. And if you criticize them, they'd say, don't worry. Steve down the block, he's spending even more than me. He's gonna go broke faster. That's insane. We have to clean up we haven't had a budget surplus since Clinton. Now that's not Democrat or Republican. That's just stupid. We can't afford all this. And I don't want to see the country go broke because I'm going to be around for a while. These politicians are like 80 years old, 70 years old. They don't care. They care about the spotlight. They care about things that you and I don't care about. We care about the dollar having no purchasing power. We care about, you know how miserable Europe was after World War II? It was so bad we had to bail them out. Do we want to be in that situation where China, who has a more responsible fiscal policy than we do, there's no Chinese debt markets. They keep their house in order. Look at Switzerland, no debt. Norway, no debt. They don't need it. They make money. If anybody should be making money, it's this country. We should be generating a surplus. Look at the countries like Singapore. They have a sovereign wealth fund for all the money they've racked up. We don't have a sovereign wealth fund. We have a tin can we pass out every week called the Treasury market. Has anybody got that? Anybody got some money for us? Sovereign wealth fund in our dreams. That'd be nice. If we had a sovereign wealth fund, we could afford even more things. We can make money on our money, and we can buy even more things. It's the greatest country in the world, but everything can go in a blip. I see somebody saying, well, before bankruptcy, they'd stop it. Well, the thing about that is every country thinks that. But when Russia went bankrupt, when Argentina went bankrupt, when Venezuela went bankrupt, they all said the same thing. Oh, man, sometimes it just happens immediately. And I think that the other point is, why risk it? Why knowingly engage in an insane plan with the hopes of stopping the insane plan before it gets bad? That's like saying, let's play Russian roulette. Maybe at some point we'll stop because it's getting too dangerous. Doesn't make much sense. Don't think that's the way we should go about it. So anyway, if you're in the New York District 3, which is the north part of Nassau County, the north part of Suffolk County, some parts of the Bronx and Westchester and Queens, I need you to go to ny3election.com. I need you to fill out this form and put me on the ballot. I guarantee you I will be the funniest congressperson there is. I'll be memeing and challenging all these folks. It would take you about 10 minutes to do this, if that. I will not be going to DC. I'll be live streaming. Maybe I'll live stream from DC. I won't take any campaign money or any staffers or anything like that. I don't need that. I want to just stick to my job. I want to do my job.